Good afternoon. I'm Randall Smith, in case there's somebody here that doesn't know me, but I think I know everybody. So great crowd, and thank you for coming out on your Sunday afternoon. And you're going to get to hear some beautiful piano music today. And Pamela and I have been playing together, we figured about 20 years. She started out as an organ student of mine. Her grandparents lived in Lynette. Joanne and Charles Kitchens were her grandparents, and she came to live with them and go to college at Auburn. And at that time, I was working at Valley Florist, and her grandfather came by, and he said, I've got a granddaughter who's really good on the piano. Said she wants to take organ. Call us and set up a time for her to take organ. Well, I never did it. I'm a real bad secretary. So he came by again. He says, she's really good. You need to call me. I says, well, I'll look at my schedule and I'll give you a call. Third time he came in, he says, I'm bringing my granddaughter at 6 o'clock tomorrow for an organ lesson. So I taught piano in the educational building away from it, and I walked down to the sanctuary and heard this music coming from the piano, and I said, my Lord, who are you and where are you from? How do I not know you? Well, she was from Albany, Georgia, and had lived away, and she started taking organ from me, and then started playing the piano for us, and we started doing concerts together. And this is our first concert together in several years. And since that time, she has found a husband and married about 2 years ago. And I was supposed to play for her wedding, which was going to be a big event for me, and I had a heart attack and didn't get to do it. And so I missed the big occasion. But today, mostly, you're going to be hearing hymn arrangements. And there's nothing better than a hymn to feed the soul. And you will know the words to most of these. There may be one or two in here that you may not know. So we will be alternating. We will do some pieces together as four-hand piano duets. Then Pamela will do some solos, and then I've got some solos, and then we have some more duets. And I do ask that you be sure your telephone is turned off or put on silence. And also, don't applaud during the concert. Wait until the end. And I don't think there's going to be an appropriate place at the end, but I know that you enjoyed it, whether you get to clap or not, okay? And also, join us downstairs in the fellowship hall for refreshments after the concert, so that we can mingle and talk with you more. I've tried to talk to everybody, and I may have missed somebody. So I hope you enjoy today's program. And a question: would you be interested in a Christmas recital? Okay? Okay, so I guess that's our answer. And it will be more than Pamela and I, okay? I won't give you details right now because all the people that's performing, they don't know it yet. So. I'd like to thank Dr. Tom Tucker for the wonderful audiovisual that you were seeing. It adds a lot to the program, doesn't it? And he has worked hard on that, and I'd like to thank him for that. 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, Pamela and I lost a dear friend, a musician friend that meant the world to us. Bobby Wickham Abercrombie was from Lynette, was born and raised in Lynette, and was organist at Lynette First United Methodist Church for many years, and moved to Beauregard years ago. And she joined Providence Baptist Church there and was the organist there. And her daughter Anna Kate was going to get married a couple of years ago, and I had been asked to play the organ for that wedding, and Bobby was going to play the piano for her granddaughter's wedding because Anna Kate had taken piano from her all of her life, and she wanted her grandmother to play the piano. And so Bobby wanted to be in top form for the wedding, and so she went to have knee replacement surgery and came home from the hospital and got deathly ill and had septic poisoning and died within a couple of days. And then after that, I had my heart attack and did not get to play for Anna Kate's wedding either. So we both missed the wedding, but Anna Kate is happily married and living in Kentucky now. So Bobby was just a dear friend. Even though she was old enough to be my mother, I never thought of her as that. She was just a friend. And I could always call Bobby, no matter what, and we would talk on the phone sometimes for an hour, hour and a half. And she'd finally say, "I've got to go, Mac is hungry, and I got to get him some dinner." And I can just hear her saying that now. But on several occasions, she came over to Callaway Gardens to hear me play. She loved that. And while I was in the hospital, her daughter Kathy lives in Montgomery, and Kathy was so good to me during my sickness that she would come visit me at the hospital and the rehab and all that. And at one trip, she brought a picture that Pamela had made. Pamela would come over to Callaway with Bobby, and we'd enjoy the day. And it's a picture of Bobby and me standing in front of one of the big stained glass windows there. And I wouldn't give anything for that picture. But when Bobby would come to the concert, she would always come by the organ or send word over or something to play "Be Thou My Visions." That's one of my favorite hymns. And so Pamela had said today, she says, "I just think I need to play that and us remember Miss Bobby." And so at this time, Pamela is going to play this in memory of our dear friend Bobby, who attended these concerts. She attended the concert series. We drive up from Auburn and came to most of the concerts, and she's dearly missed. And so, Bobby, we know you would probably die again if you knew your picture was up here on the screen, but this is for you. During our many years of having concerts here in West Point, we've been very fortunate to have some wonderful artists. And this concert series is sponsored and paid for by people like you. And today, after it's over, if you'd like to give some toward the concert series, just bring it and leave it in the offering plate here. We will take anything that you can give to help this concert series go on. Pamela and I will not get a penny. We're doing this as a fundraiser for the concert series so that we can have more concerts. And one of the most outstanding concerts that meant the most to me was one several years ago where we had Kurt Kaiser from Waco, Texas come. I got to pick him up at the airport, and by the time we got to West Point, we were the best of friends. He was the most genuine, down-to-earth man that you could ever meet, and was just a wonderful person. And you know how you can meet somebody and just instantly you know they're special. Well, Kurt Kaiser was a songwriter, and he wrote hymns and different things, and at one time was a vice president of Word Records, which was a very prestigious job, and especially back during this era. And he was responsible for signing on new people with album deals. And the piece I just played was arranged by Ken Miedema, who's a blind pianist. He gave him his first record deal at Word. Another one was Evie Tornquist, that was very famous back in the late 70s, early 80s, sang for Billy Graham. And we just shared stories. And he did the concert on Sunday. On Monday morning, we went to Callaway Gardens, spent the day at Callaway Gardens. He was just blown away by the beauty there. And last November, Kurt passed away. He was in his mid-80s, and he had had a lot of heart complications over the years and just wore out. And so I'd like to dedicate this to him today, this part to him. And I'm going to be playing some songs that are relevant to his life. Even though he wrote hundreds of songs, you would recognize a lot of them. If somebody got up here and sang some of them, you would say, oh, I didn't know he wrote that. But of all the hundreds of songs that he wrote, there were two that he is best known for. And this just happens to be the 50th anniversary of his most famous song that he wrote, Pass It On. How many of you know Pass It On? Everybody should. When you hear it, you're going to know it. It was written in the year 1969. I was in second grade at Fairfax Elementary School. And I very well remember the song just went crazy. Everybody was singing it. Youth camps, youth choirs, around fire, campfires, everything. They were singing it with guitars. They were singing it any way they could sing it. You heard it. It was in all the churches everywhere. And Kurt Kaiser told me that he and his wife were sitting in the den one Sunday night. And the fire had died down in the fireplace. And he looked at it, and it only takes a spark to get a fire going. And soon all those around can warm up in its glow. And he said, hey, honey, I think I've got a new hymn, a new song. And he wrote the words down to it. And his wife, Pat, threw in, she says, well, say something about shouting from the mountaintop. And so he wrote that down, and he wrote one of the most famous songs of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was in the Baptist hymnals and the Methodist hymnals and hymnals all over the world. And he kind of grew tired of the song. He heard it everywhere he went. And he told me, he says, the best thing that I can say about Pass It On is it paid a lot of bills. He says, one night I was watching the Cotton Bowl. All of a sudden they started singing Pass It On and lighting candles in the stadium, and it was just candlelight everywhere. And he said, all I could see was royalties, 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 you know. So he did say that he did grow quite tired of the song. And he was good friends with George Beverly Shea, who sang for Billy Graham's for a long, long time, who was responsible for bringing the hymn, How Great Thou Art, to America. He heard it in England at a Billy Graham crusade and brought it to America. And he was known as Bev Shea. And he says that he and Bev Shea were in Waco eating one night. And said they had this handsome young waiter waiting their table, and said one of them says, well, what is a nice young man like you doing waiting tables? He says, I've got a girlfriend and I'm going to ask her to marry me, and I'm working this job to save up money to buy her a ring. And Bev Shea says, well, have you thought about any music for your wedding yet? And the boy looked at him strangely. He said, no. He says, I know the perfect song for your wedding. It's a song called Pass It On. Have you ever heard that song? And the boy said, oh my God, I hate that song. He said, I hear it everywhere I go. It's at camp, it's at church, it's everywhere. I hate it. He says, well, this is Kurt Kaiser. He's the man that wrote it. He said the guy just turned around and walked off, you know. So he said that day he did not know if the guy took him serious or not, but he said that was a funny story that he shared. And he also said that he would spend the night a lot of times with Bev Shea. Bev Shea lived to be like 104 years old. He just died a few years ago, but Kurt Kaiser would go spend the night with George Beverly Shea, and Beverly Shea had pipe organs in his house. And he said he had holes in the floor with these big pipes sticking up. And his alarm clock every morning was Bev Shea would get on the organ and play Good Morning to You. And he said that was his sign to get up when he started playing the organ. So today I want to remember Kurt Kaiser and the influence that he played in my life on those that weekend I spent with him. It was incredible, probably the most incredible experience in my life. And the books I'm playing out of today are gifts from him, where he actually inscribed them and gave them to me. And he gave me CDs, and we'd be riding down the road. He'd say, wait a minute, quit talking. Let me tell you about this song. And he would tell me the story behind it. Or listen to this. This is the lowest note that a cello can play, and he said that's the lowest note. And I just learned so much from him and appreciate it. And so the songs that I'm going to play, I told you there were two songs that he wrote that were popular, Pass It On and Oh How He Loves You and Me. Oh How He Loves You and Me, he submitted for to be copyrighted at the Library of Congress, and they sent it back to him. Said it doesn't have enough words. He said, well, oh, how he loves you and me, oh, how he loves you and me. He gave his life, what more could he give? Oh, how he loves you, oh, how he loves you, oh, how he loves you and me. You know, he said it was repetitive, and they wouldn't accept that as words. So he had to write a second verse to go with oh, how he loves you and me. And so I found that interesting. So today I'm going to play, the first one is a gorgeous arrangement. I love this. It is the O Rugged Cross with Oh How He Loves You and Me. And you'll start one melody with your right hand, your left hand comes in, then you may be playing with your right hand, and then your thumb comes in with another melody, and it's intertwining the two together, and it's a gorgeous arrangement of that. And then I'm going to do The Wonder of It All, which George Beverly Shea wrote. And that was in the 1950s, I believe, that he wrote that, one of his most famous songs. And then we are going to sing Pass It On. The words to that will be on the screen, and you'll just follow the piano. I'll do an introduction. Y'all just stand if you want to and sing all three verses of Pass It On. And by the way, this piece, Pass It On, was played at his funeral. I was curious as to if it would be or not, and it was played at his funeral. So, because he really didn't like it. He just grew tired of it. And of course, the concert we had was built all around that song that Sunday, and it's like he probably thinks they're so dorky, you know. But he was a great man. I'd like to remember him today. And don't forget to leave us some money, okay, so that we can have some other concerts, okay? I promise you a good one for Christmas, okay?